So maybe we could say hundreds of people, but again there were millions of devas came to see the last moments of the Buddha on earth. There are millions and millions and millions and millions of devas as well. Important, you see, because getting a rebirth in the world of human beings is a very, very rare event in samsara. If all these other beings exist, the chances are you're not going to get reborn in this kind of tiny world of human beings, because there's only so few of us, whereas the other realms are so greatly populated. As I've told before many times, about the rarities. This is one advice. At the end of the daily chanting in Sri Lanka, the head monk will turn round and he will chant this advice to the other monks. Apamadena bhikkhave sampadeta. That was this is known as the last words of the Buddha. Apamadena bhikkhave sampadeta. Strive on, monks, with heedfulness. But then it's elaborated here. The arising of a Buddha in this world is rare. In the periods of samsara, the times that there's a Buddha are very, very few and far between. There's, that means not just the Buddha, but the Buddha Sasana. We're still living in the Buddha Sasana 2,500 years after the Buddha. But those periods where there's a Sasana are very, very small. When the Sasana eventually finishes, you get a long time when there's no chance of hearing the Buddha's teaching. The arising of a Buddha in the world is a very rare event. So you should consider, for one thing, that you have arisen at the time that a Buddha's teaching has arisen. The chances are, even if you get born in the world of human beings, it's going to be at a time that you can't hear the Dhamma, or in a place where you can't hear the Dhamma. If you're born in Afghanistan, you're not going to hear the Dhamma. Acquiring a human existence is rare. That's what put me onto this thread. Even getting birth as a human being is extremely rare in samsara. There's many other places you can get reborn and likely to get reborn. The third one, gaining confidence, is rare. You know yourselves, lots of people hear the Dhamma and they pay no attention. They hear what is being taught and it just doesn't click somehow. It just doesn't make a change in their heart. Even during Lord Buddha's time, same thing. Many people came to the Buddha when the Buddha was alive and they listened to his teaching and they weren't convinced. They went away unconvinced. If that's the case when a Buddha is teaching, what chance have us monks got? So again, you see, gaining confidence, that means hearing the teaching and deciding to do something about it. That means put it into effect in your own life. That also is a very rare thing. Many people hear the Dhamma, only a few act on it. The next one, you see, because this is chanted for, particularly in a way, for monks, being one gone forth is rare. That means getting the chance to ordain is also a great rarity, Most people who have confidence have other things as well. Wives, children, jobs, responsibilities to their parents, 101 other things which prevents them from being in a position where they can dedicate their lives to putting the teaching into practice. You see how many rarities come together. Handadani bhikkhave amantiyamiyo vaya dhamma sankara apamadena sampadeta. This was the last words of the Buddha, yeah? Come now, monks, for I tell you, all conditioned things all sankhara, everything that's come together, is subject to decay. That means eventually it's going to fall apart. Strive on with heedfulness. There are states of mind that can be produced that have fixed destinies. If you've done certain acts or attained certain states, they have fixed destinies. That means if you've murdered your father and mother, if you've killed an arahat, or if you've managed to injure a Buddha, these sort of things, no matter what you do afterwards, it's a fixed destiny. You get reborn in hell. You might regret it and you might, do 1,000 good things afterwards, but it's a fixed destiny, and for some time you get reborn in hell. If you have regretted it and you did do good things afterwards, you've got a chance of getting back out, because you've got some store of merit. On the other side, if you've attained jhana and maintain those levels, you get reborn in the Brahma levels. Similarly, fixed destinies if you've attained path and fruit. Like if you've attained Sotapanna, then you can say that you only get 7 lives wherever it is. You don't go down to these levels, and you get seven lives somewhere in the good destinies, in the Sugatis, at the very most, and then you pass out of existence. I'm just explaining that because most of us are not in one or other of those positions. So we're in a situation where we could go either way. According to our past karma, not just in this life, we might know what our karma is in this life, but we don't know exactly what it was in a previous life, or in hundreds of previous lives, or thousands of previous lives. So we're in a state of uncertainty. It could be that after this life, even if we've lived well, that we fall down, and it could be, even if we've not lived so good, that we go up. Because the kamic store, if you like, is not just one life, and it's a balance over all those lives. So the Buddha did teach this. There's a sutta in Majjhima Nikaya called Chulakama Vibhanga Sutta, and he said sometimes people see that people have done bad things and they get reborn in heaven, and then they think there's no moral order in the world. Why? Because they're only looking at one existence, and they're making a judgment only on one existence. Somebody who's done bad, and then they get a heavenly reward. How can it be? It's an immoral situation. But the fact is, there's not just one existence. That person has been a long, long time in samsara. At other times, he's been producing merit. It's that merit that is coming to fruition that gets him reborn in heaven. The demerit that he's produced in that immediate past life will eventually get him to fall from heaven. Similarly, and not unimportantly, sometimes people see that people who did very good things fall down, and then again they think this is an amoral universe because somebody who does good falls down, so then they think shouldn't do good. People do think like this, They see people doing good, and never do they, even in this life, never do they get like the reward that you would think that they should get. But they only look at one life. They don't look at the span of lives that is giving rise to those conditions. Although they're doing good now, maybe in past lives, everybody got mixed karma. In past lives, they've done bad things. We all have. But the generality of it is, of course, that you do good deeds, you go up, you do bad deeds, you go down. What we're looking at is the 31 planes of existence. That is one way of analyzing the different levels. If we wanted to, we could count Nirya as 8 levels, isn't it? There's 8 hells. This is just one way of analyzing it. The reason I want to say that is because above Manusa Loka and below the world of the 4 great kings, there is actually in fact another realm, which is what we call the Brahma Deva. That means the earth gods. They are what you can say like the tree sprites, the mountain gods, the river gods, the gods and powerful beings that you find in the nature realm. That's why they're called Brahma Deva, earth gods. They're not above the earth, they're at the same level of the earth. All these creatures are known in all the traditional societies. They're given different names, but they're all known in traditional societies. And they always have the same sort of characteristics. Like the low-level god that lives in a river. Of course, if it lives in a big river, it becomes a more important god. Like Ganga, for instance, the goddess Ganga. Also, interestingly, I don't know why, maybe there is some sort of reason that could be figured out, but normally river gods are female and mountain gods are male. All of these realms, the sensual world realms, no sexual differentiation. Above these realms, in the Brahmalokas, there's no sexual differentiation. But in the Kamaloka, there's sexual differentiation amongst the gods as well. So those Brahma Deva come between Manusa Loka and Chatu Maharajika Loka. The Chatu Maharajika Loka is the world of the 4 great kings. Now they all rule over a kind of entourage, or a army of beings, if you like. So Vesavana's army are the Yakas. The Yakas also have this kind of mixed mythological history. They started by being quite high devas. You know, here, of course, they're above Manusa, you see. They're actually at a good high level. Over the course of the last 2,000 years, they're kind of fallen down to like the Asura level. I'm not saying that's what's happened, but in popular imagination, that's what's happened. And now, if you get like an evil spirit in Sri Lanka or whatever, they call it a yaka. It's like they've kind of fallen down, just like the Asuras fell down, you see. But yakas originally, at the time of Lord Buddha, the conception about them is that they were very powerful beings, kind of semi-divine, if you like, above the human world, not at the top level. All people within the sense worlds, from the Nirya Loka to the Paranimita Vasavadana Loka, all of them are subject to the same sorts of passions, if you like, as human beings are. That means they get angry, they get lustful, they get deluded, and so on. The higher you are, the less it is. The lower you are, the more it is. So yakas also could sometimes get angry, you see. One yaka, for instance, did a very stupid thing. When Sariputta and Moggallana were going through the countryside one time, then one yaka got it into his head that he was going to smash Sariputta on the head with his fist. And the other yaka said, "Don't do that." And he said, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to hit him on the head with my fist." And he said, "Don't do that." And he went and he hit Sariputta on the head. Now this is a big yaka. So he smashed Sariputta on the head. And then Sariputta kind of scratched his head going, "Oh, what was that about?" But the yaka immediately fell into hell. You see, the earth opened up and the Yaka went straight to hell. Even at this level, you see, they have contrary minds like we have. So they can sometimes get it into their brains to do something stupid. We do also, isn't it? Sometimes without meaning to, even though we're generally acting intelligently and well and for the benefit of others and ourselves and things, sometimes just kind of it comes over you and you do something stupid. So it happens with yakas as well, you see. Virulika and the Kumbandikas. The Kumbandikas are like dwarfs, like little fat creatures, very powerful. There's not so much information about Kumbandikas, to be quite honest. They don't figure so much. Dhartarato, which is Dhritarashtra, that means, this strong ruler. He rules over the Gandhabas. The Gandhabas are the heavenly musicians. Normally when they're pictured with a lute. Their kind of role is that they play beautiful celestial music. And then Virupaka, his group is the Nagas. The Nagas, it's an interesting word in a way. The Nagas are the serpent kings. That means, even in India, perhaps even here, I'm not sure, but in India, even till today, they will worship like the cobras. Why? The cobras have the power of life and death over you. If a cobra strikes you, you die. It's a really powerful creature. So these cobras became like deified. You'll remember when the Buddha attained enlightenment, after the enlightenment, during one of the weeks when he was still in the area of the Bodhi tree, Muchilinda came and shielded him from the weather. The Nagas are these kind of powerful, snake-like, dragon-like creatures. In China, of course, it's conceptualized as a dragon. The dragons are very strong and powerful. So the Nagas are the same. That's the realm of the Chaturmaharajika Deva Loka, which is conceptualized as being on Mount Meru, about halfway up Mount Meru. Mount Meru is what we now call Mount Kailash. Meru was thought of as being the center of the universe. At the base of it is like a huge ocean. One part of that ocean, there is an island or a continent, if you like, Jambudipa. Jambudipa is what we now call India. And there's 3 other continents around Mount Meru. This is the ancient conception of the world, if you like. The Chaturmaharajika Deva are like halfway up Mount Meru. That's their abode. And some of them actually live in vimanas, if you know what a vimana is. A vimana is like a floating palace. It's a beautiful mansion that floats in the air. This is a vimana, you see. It's like a mansion. These are the gods on the clouds. If you do a lot of good deeds, you get reborn as a god at this level, and you get a whole vimana to yourself. And you can live in this palace in the sky. Some of them are ladies. These are lady signs. And some of them are men. They got moustaches. This is an interesting one, but we haven't got to this level yet. But this is an interesting one because this is the Buddha teaching the Abhidhamma to his mother in Tavatimsa. Mahamaya died 7 days after the birth. She was reborn as a Devaputa. That means a male Deva, actually. A male Deva in Tavatimsa. In the 7th Rains retreat, then the Buddha went to heaven, and he spent the Rains retreat in heaven teaching the Abhidhamma to his mother. Sariputta was spending the Rains retreat on earth, But every day he would go up to Tavatimsa and listen to what the Buddha was teaching his mum, and then he came down and he taught the monks. That's the story, you see, that's the mythology behind the origins of the Abhidhamma. This is the Buddha teaching the gods. Gods have iconography. So Sakadeva always is green. Similarly, we have a 1, 2, 3, and on the other side 4-headed Brahma god. The Brahma god, both in Buddhist and Hindu iconography, is always portrayed with 4 faces. He can see in all 4 directions. It's like saying he's something like omniscient, you see. So Sakadeva lives in the world of the 33 divinities. By saying the 33 divinities, it doesn't mean that there's only 33, but there's 33 chief divinities, that's what it means. And then there's thousands of other divinities as well that live at the same level. That is also where the Asuras were living before they got drunk and into a fight with Sakka and then got chased out of heaven. So they were living in this very nice heavenly abode, and then they got themselves into big trouble. Sakka, by the way, is a post, not a person. When one Sakka dies, another Sakka is reborn in that position. When that Sakka dies, another Sakka is born in that position. But there's always a Sakka. The present one is a Sotapanna, so that means he will only have so many more existences. For Sakka, it's only for him, the way he is experiencing reality is that time has gone very, very slowly. To our level anyway, it's going very, very slowly. And it means it's only now 25 days since the Buddha passed away. 1 day of the gods equals 100 years of human life. So it's only a short time as far as Sakka is concerned. It only happened a couple of weeks ago. But as far as we're concerned, it's happened 2,500 years ago. What I was saying that for is, even you get to be born as Sakka, you see, he's not going to live for 25 days and then get reborn. He's going to live for a long time in that position, and then he gets reborn. And maybe he has 7 more lives. That means he's got still a long time in samsara, even though he's Sotapanna. So getting to be Sotapanna is really an important thing, and because it changes your whole position. You know you're not going to go down, but it doesn't mean that you're just going to jump straight out either. In the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Ananda came to the Buddha and said, somebody has died in this village. Which realm was he reborn in? And then the Buddha explained that that person was an anagami. He'd been reborn in the Pure Lands, and from there he will attain Nibbana without ever coming back to earth. And then Ananda came and said, there's another person who's died. Right? What is his destiny? And the Buddha said, this person, having attained jhana, was reborn in the Brahmalokas. And then Ananda came and said, another person has died. And then another person has died, and another person has died, and another person has died. And the Buddha said, if every time I have to answer the question where somebody has been rebirthed, it's going to become tiring for me, Ananda. So I'll teach you the mirror of the Dhamma, knowing which you can understand whether you're Sotapanna or not. So he told that somebody who is Sotapanna, how they can know it is if they have perfect faith in the Buddha, perfect faith in the Dhamma, perfect faith in the Sangha, and they never break their precepts. These are known as the Sotapatti Anga. Anga means, it means the 4 factors that identify the Sotapanna. Now, it's also a good one, because why is that? Why do you gain perfect faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha? The reason is because you see from your own experience, in your own depths of your heart, that the teaching worked. Up to now, for most of us, we believe in the teaching. A Sotapanna doesn't believe in the teaching anymore. He knows that the teaching works. Again, just like this thing that he can't fall into the lower realms, changes his whole position in samsara, so his psychology is changed, so that he has perfect faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, and he never breaks his precepts. Because of not breaking the precepts, of course, is one of the kind of reasons why you don't go down. If somebody claims that they're a Sotapanna, right, you can't tell about their psychological state. You can't tell. They might say, I have perfect faith in the Buddha, I have perfect faith in the Dhamma. You can't tell whether it's true or not. But if you see them breaking their precepts, you can know that it's not true. If you yourself attain Sotapanna, you know it. There is a knowledge that arises that you know that the situation has changed. You're not in any doubt. Above Sakka's realm is the Yama realm. There's hardly any information. I don't know anything much about the Yamadeva realm because there's nothing much said. Some of these realms, they're kind of identified. Like we know, for instance, who is the ruler. Like Sakka is the ruler in Tavatimsa. The ruler in Yama is Suyama. Tusita Deva Loka is a very important loka. It means the world of the contented. This is important because all bodhisattvas, before they're reborn on earth and attain Buddhahood, their last life is always in Tusita Deva Loka. Our bodhisattva was born there. His last human life was as Vasantara. Many times you will hear people say that the Buddha's last life was Vasantara. It's not his last life, it's his last human life. His last life before he was reborn as Siddhartha is as Setuketu. And then what happens is the gods come and beg him or come and plead with him to be reborn on earth. And he makes the decision to come down to earth, and he looks for the right conditions. Must have the right country, the right family, the right mother. There's 5 conditions, yeah? So our Bodhisattva did the same thing, and he decided to be reborn in Mahamaya's womb. And he descended for that rebirth. When he descended for that rebirth, another Bodhisattva was born in Tusita Deva Loka. His name is Nata. Nata, later, a long time later, but it's not that long in their time. As you go up in the realms, the days get longer, if you see what I mean. Later, the gods will go and ask him to be reborn, and then he will descend to earth and take human birth. According to the way it's told, his name will be Ajita. When he attains Buddhahood, he is known as Metteya or Maitri Buddha. But at the moment, he's Nata Deva living in Tusita Deva Loka. The Manarati Deva Loka is the Devas who delight in creation. So what they do, if you like, is they make beautiful sense objects for themselves to enjoy. That's how they spend their time, just making beautiful sense objects that they then enjoy. There's not much more about this realm either. But the next realm is the Paranimitta Vasavatti Deva Loka, which is the world of the divinities wielding power over the creation of others. These divinities make beautiful sense objects, and these divinities enjoy them. They don't have to make them themselves. they've got these devas to make them for them. So these, when they're talking about beautiful sense objects, they're not talking about, you know, these kind of gross sense objects. They're talking about highly refined sense objects now. You know, you might think about very highly refined artistic levels or something like that. So they make these beautiful, beautiful objects, and then these devas, they just come along. They don't have to make them, they just come along and enjoy them. Where do you think Mara is living? Number 4, this level. This is where Mara is. He's the chief guard in this realm, because Mara has control over the whole of the sensual world. He's not just an evil being. Nowadays, because of bad PR, he gets portrayed as just like an evil being. But he's not just an evil being. He's actually a very high-level deva. And he has control over the whole of the sensual worlds. That's his realm. Mara's realm is the realm of the senses. That means even you get these highly refined sensual contacts, still it's binding you into the rounds of samsara. The sensual contact keeps you going round and round and round. Not just when it's gross, even when it's refined. So sometimes Mara tempts, not with gross things that you might reject anyway, but with very refined things that you find it very difficult to reject. So you have to understand that, you see. Because of the bad PR situation, most people think that Mara dwells down here. As long as you think he's dwelling down here, you know, you think you're already above him. Don't believe it. Mara is above you. And he knows more about how to keep you here than you know about how to get out. What this is like a schematic representation of the universe. As I was saying at the beginning, according to your own mental state, you can be reborn in these worlds, or you can understand that you're being reborn in these worlds. If you have a very highly refined artistic sense, for instance, and that's where you find your joy or whatever, it's like you're up here. If you find your joy, you get your kicks from killing people, from hurting people, from causing people distress. Your mind is down here. If you only understand it as a description, like it's a description of a city or a country or something, it has no meaning, you know. Maybe it's true and maybe it's not true. It has no meaning like that. But if you understand what I said at the beginning, that the psychological worlds and the cosmological worlds mirror each other, you see how this is relevant for you. If I just describe all this and you don't understand what it means for you personally, it's a waste of time really, you know, because you can go up in a spacecraft and you won't find these places. You can take it like that as a spatial description, as a geography of the universe, but you can take it as a psychological geography of the universe, and you can make all of this meaningful. You understand where Mara is, you know to be careful about things. You don't understand where he is, you think he's down here and you've already got above him and escaped from him. You don't do the right things, you don't understand your real position. These realms are the Brahma realms. The Brahmas are also devas, but they're at a much higher level. That means a much higher level of refinement, and also they're not within the sensual realms. For one thing, as I was saying earlier, they don't have sexual differentiation anymore. They're kind of neuter, if you like. Their bodies are not gross bodies like ours are, or like animals are. They're not made of this gross matter. They're made of fine matter, very refined matter, if you like. They they correspond to the jhana levels. This is Pratama jhana, the first absorption. And then, you know, in the first jhana, in the commentaries, they divide it into three. That means there's a very high level of the first jhana, there's a middle level of the first jhana, and a low level. So these three correspond for that level. That means if you get yourself into seclusion and you do meditation to a reasonable high level for what's probably going to be like a prolonged time, you can attain first jhana, you can know what the worlds are like at this level. Also, I think anybody who's experienced meditation, when you get into a higher state of mind, it's like time is not passing, you're just kind of floating in a timeless space. Their days are longer than the sensual world days. And that's actually how it feels when you're in those levels of meditative development. And the higher you go, the more timeless it becomes. So this corresponds to the first jhana. This corresponds to the second jhana, the three levels of the second jhana. It's like the divinities are streaming radiance, unbounded radiance, unlimited radiance. You'll often hear people say, I saw the light. In many religions they will talk about seeing the light. It's this sort of level that they've attained, like second jhana. From our point of view, you're just about midway in samsara. But from their point of view, they've seen the light, they've seen God. It's the end of the story. But from our point of view, it's only second jhana. Same here, you see. The higher the level, then at this level, Subhakinika level, it's just like extremely beautiful. You know, all the mind is so refined. Any sort of dukkha at this level has already passed away. You have no feelings of dukkha. There's only sukha. That means there's only pleasant feelings at this level. It's a really, really beautiful realm to dwell in. So the divinities are known as refulgent beauty, unbounded beauty, and then, you know, the ones who are only limited, or only got a limited attainment, that's the limited beauty. As third jhana. The fourth jhana level is this level. Okay, if you attain fourth jhana and you haven't got path and fruit to anagami stage, this is the level you're likely to be born into. It's the Vayapala Brahmaloka. Vayapala means great fruit. The world of the high divinities of great fruit. Greatly fruitful, because it's such a high level, you see. There's another level, which is an interesting one actually, especially for some of you who know some of the Hindu teachings and some of the Zen teachings, which is called Sannyasatavasa, the realm of unconscious beings. Now there's some types of meditation that people do where their aim is to completely suppress the mind, so that there's no mind at all at that level of the meditation. If you are successful in that, when you get reborn here in the Asanyasatavasa. That's the realm of unconscious beings. They only have fine form and no mind. You get born with only a rupa. It's a fine rupa, but it's only a rupa. And eventually, like all these, still get reborn, yeah? Now then, if you've attained anagami, anagami means non-returner. You never return to a lower level. You get reborn in the Pure Lands. The Pure Land teachings are quite common in Malaysia. They're based on the original cosmology that we know also in the Theravada. The main difference between the Pure Lands in the Theravada conception and the Mahayana conception is how you get there. In the Theravada conception, it's very, very difficult. In the Mahayana conception, just calling on Amitabha will get you reborn in the Pure Lands. And then you'll find Amitabha waiting for you. That means the Buddha of endless light is waiting for you. And from that level, you go out. It means you attain Nirvana. This level also, in the Theravada, if you attain these 5 higher levels, from there you also attain Nibbana. There's no Amitabha in the Theravada conception. Just by a natural course, you get to that level. You can be reborn at a higher level. That means you go from 23 to 24, 24 to 25. But the big difference, you've got to be an anagami in the Theravada conception. And an anagami is a very, very high attainment. It's one step off the end of samsara altogether. Beyond the Rupa Loka is the Arupa Loka, the formless worlds. These correspond to the formless realms, the ayatana, that are built on the basis of the 4th jhana. But in this realm, there's no form at all. It's only mind. When the Bodhisattva was seeking awakening, if you remember, he went to Alara Kalama, who was one teacher in India at the time. And Alara Kalama taught him how to reach Akinchayatana, the sphere of nothingness. It's an extremely high level of mental development where the body has completely fallen away. Any kind of knowledge of body or anything like that has fallen away. It's really a very high level. But the Buddha attained it and he realized it's still within the realms of samsara. It still is not awakening, even though it's an extremely high level of mental development. So after that he left Alara and he went to Ramaputta. And Ramaputta taught that his father, Ramaputta means Rama's son. Ramaputta taught that Rama had attained the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And then the Bodhisattva attained that level as well. But he realized that that was still within the realms. It's at the top now. There's nothing above. You're at the very top of existence. At the very top level of samsara, if you like. The most refined state of mind, to put it in psychological terms. But he realized that it still wasn't awakening. So after that, he went off to seek awakening. He left Ramaputta, even though Ramaputta put him on the same level and made him teacher over all the people. Samsara, you see, it's a really, really, really big place. There's lots and lots of realms in there. There's loads of fun to be had in samsara, and there's loads of suffering to be had in samsara, and there's wonderful states of mind to be had in samsara. But Nibbana is outside altogether. It's not within anything that you can describe. Everything here from top to bottom, you can describe it. Nibbana, you cannot describe it. And for us as Buddhists, it's good to develop sila and dana and get into higher levels, you know. It's good to develop meditation and get up to these levels, but this is not what you should be practicing for. Really, you need to keep your mind on the end game, which is, if you like, the out game. And that means attaining Nibbana, which is getting out of samsara altogether. Yeah. That's what the Buddha taught the Dhamma for. He didn't teach it for attaining heaven. He specifically told He didn't teach it for attaining heaven, but he taught it for getting out of samsara altogether. So everybody say sadhu.